Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Due to social media or possibly real life, you may have seen people spinning the tires in their cars or doing donuts or drifting in their cars. And once in a while you hear these stories about where a group of people get together and do this someplace and then a crowd will gather. And some places refer to that as a sideshow, Now, there's a great song by a band called Blue Magic, Sideshow. Nothing to do with cars in this sense. However, some cities have said, okay, we're going to make that illegal. And when we outlaw it, we're not only going to hand out tickets, we're also going to seize the cars. And by the way, if you're watching, if you're spectating, we might also arrest you and seize your car. And so they've tried this in different cities to varying degrees of success, but a big one made the news the other day out of Stockton, California, where they seized 88 cars. 88 cars seized during Northern California Sideshow may never return to their owners. By Tori Apodaca. CBSNews.com reports the 88 people with their cars impounded during a sideshow operation in Stockton may never get them back. That's because the county sheriff there said they just got 88 warrants to search the 88 vehicles that are now securely locked away at the sheriff's office. And they're not just looking for evidence of drivers doing donuts. They're looking in the vehicles to see if there's any contraband. Is there anything in there they should know about? That's according to a local attorney. This could mean more charges than just the misdemeanor of participating in this thing. Some people brought their children to this event, so that's criminal charges against child endangerment, the sheriff said. California Vehicle Code 23109 addresses speed exhibitions, sideshows, and drag races, but Stockton wrote its own law, which is even harsher. It considers the vehicles involved in sideshow activity nuisance vehicles. The vehicle is a nuisance. The attorney speaking here said this gives law enforcement agencies the green light to seize the cars of both the participants and the spectators. And this is a problem I've got. Let's suppose that one of these things is happening near where you lived. And you're driving home and there's a crowd in the street and you can't get through. And wrong place, wrong time. All of a sudden, cops descend from all directions. And there you are. You guys are trying to get home. Yeah, well, you were out in the street with your car. And you were right there in the center of it. Yeah, I was in the street with my car because I really can't drive across lawns legally. Sorry, you were there. Boom, there goes your car. How long can they keep the cars? Well, technically, they can do it permanently. The attorney points out they can sell it, and the money would go to the city. Now, the sheriff has not determined what will happen to the cars after the searches and charges are filed. A congressman from that district said he's working on a bipartisan bill titled They're Fast, We're Furious Act that would create an FBI task force to work with local agencies and enforce penalties. It is like whack-a-mole for law enforcement to try and get every single sideshow shut down. Meanwhile, the sheriff said this time his trained task force and neighboring agencies were ready to respond. Last time we tried to intervene in this, they threw rocks and bricks. Could have killed the officer driving by there. This time, more than 150 people were detained, and they hope this sends a clear message that they will not stand for these in Stockton. Meanwhile, the sheriff told CBS 13 that one deputy was injured during this crackdown, but he is now doing fine. The car sped in between two other cars, hitting his door and slamming it into him. But we build him tough here. He's doing fine. It may take days or even weeks before the sheriff's office goes through every single one of the 88 vehicles. They'll be video recording each search, and they may need to take fingerprints in some cases before they determine what each person will be charged with, if anything. One person was spotted cruising close to the fence where the cars are stored at the sheriff's office, and it turned out that his car was one that was impounded. The sheriff said they tried to make up a story that they were from an internet news source, but we identified them later as being at the crime scene. So they're treating the sideshow as a crime scene. The vehicles there are nuisances, and the local municipal code says they can seize the car as a nuisance. So the attorney points out that the law does allow law enforcement to seize and keep vehicles, even if a relative or roommate is the one who took the car. So again, it doesn't matter who owns the car, it's the fact that the car is there. It becomes a nuisance. And this gets us back to the thing about be careful who you lend your car to. I've mentioned before that I've heard stories and I've represented people who lent their car to somebody and got in trouble for it. And so you might go, but I had no idea they're going to do that. Well, if you're lending your car to somebody and you got no idea what they're going to do with it, you might need to rethink a few things. If you went to that sideshow and you ran because you didn't want to get caught, but you left something in the car, well, now you're facing possession in the vehicle, the attorney points out. A misdemeanor charge for a first offense, and this is $500 to $1,000 and up to 6 months in a county jail. A repeat offense is a minimum of $1,000 plus jail time. However, people may be facing more charges depending on what is found when investigators finish searching the cars. Anytime these people come back here again and try to do this, we're going to be waiting for them. We're going to do the exact same thing. So I went and pulled the California code on this. It's section 23109, and it does not go as far as the Stockton Code, but it was interesting because it just says, a person shall not engage in a motor vehicle speed contest on a highway or in an off-street parking facility. As used in this section, a motor vehicle speed contest includes a motor vehicle race against another vehicle, against a clock, or other timing device. For purposes of this section, an event in which the time to cover a prescribed route of more than 20 miles is measured, but in which the vehicle does not exceed the speed limits, is not a speed contest. And this is a person shall not aid or abet in any motor vehicle speed contest on a highway or in an off-street parking facility. And so that doesn't sound like it fits this, on all points, but the Stockton Code apparently does. And so it gets down to when they do these mass arrests, and it sounds like they're basically saying, like, if you were to draw a net around this thing that's going on there, let's imagine something's going on where people doing donuts and hole shots and drifting their cars and getting their front ends to bounce up and down and all the typical stuff. And there's people standing around watching that. And they just simply go, okay, draw a line around this. Boom, you're all under arrest because you're all breaking this code. If you got a car with you, we're taking the car. If you don't have a car, we're just going to arrest you and write you up. And it's a very serious thing because they said it's, potentially $1,000 and 6 months in jail. First offense, they probably won't do that, but they might to prove a point. But the seizure of the cars is the interesting thing. And I'm going to wait to see if somebody challenges that because a nuisance can be very, very broadly defined. And we've heard of things that were declared nuisances where you're like, really, that's a nuisance? But there's no question that the event is a nuisance. Like if they did this in a residential area, let's suppose there's some intersection that they just took over in a residential area. The people nearby would say, yes, that is a nuisance. I wouldn't like that happening out front anymore. Okay? So that's a nuisance. But do you then declare all the cars nuisances? And could you raise the defense that I was simply trying to drive through there, got stopped because of the sideshow, and it just so happened that the police rolled up at that moment in time? And by the way, of course, that's what everyone's going to say. Every single person's going to say that. Now, I can tell you that there were probably people live streaming this on YouTube, meaning that law enforcement, I'm sure, has spent the last couple days downloading videos off of YouTube and going through them saying, okay, this car right here, we got that car. This car right here, we got that car. So when the owner of that car right there shows up and goes, I wasn't doing anything, they're going to say, oh, ain't that you right there doing the donuts on dry pavement? So they're not going to be able to get, damning video footage of every single person there, but they're going to get a lot. And that's the crazy part is that in the old days, if the police showed up, they'd say, well, here's what I saw. Then, of course, they got body cameras, so they can say, well, here's what I saw when I showed up. YouTube means that they can say, oh, and here's what was happening before we got there. And chances are someone is going to say, oh, the guy's doing donuts here, but here come the cops. At that point, you got a marker as to when the cops arrived. So it's a crazy story. Every time I saw the word 88 cars, I keep thinking about the song 88 Lines About 44 Women, KROQ. Great song they played for quite a bit. But again, this harkens back to my time in California. I didn't spend much time in Stockton. I was going to school in Los Angeles. But we'll have to wait and see what happens because obviously I don't think every single person there is going to fight this because some people are going to go, well, I don't want the police looking at me. Just back away and hope they go away. On the other hand, there's going to be somebody there who's got a good story and says, I wasn't involved in this. It's going to be some car that couldn't do a donut on ice, okay? and they're going to say, I was just passing through. So we'll see what happens when that gets raised as defense. And we'll also see what happens when somebody's just nailed because they're on camera. And we'll see what happens. So from CBSNews.com, Tori Abadoka wrote that the 88 cars seized during Northern California Sideshow may never return to owners. But the Sideshow begin. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Knitting is the ability to make a piece of string into something one can wear.